Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Maryland PTAC webinar. We're delighted that you could join us this morning. I'm your host, Yasmin Razak, and I'm the Marketing and Training Coordinator here at the PTAC. Today, the webinar topic is CMMC, what it is and what you need to know. And it is led by Melissa McCoy, who's the CTO of Kaizen Approach Incorporated. We'll get started very shortly, and there will be opportunities for you to ask Melissa your questions. The way you do that is by typing them in the chat box on your screen. We do encourage you to type out your questions as you think of them so that we can make this experience a bit more interactive. A copy of the slides will be emailed to you as soon as the event is over, so we encourage you to stay to the end. And we are also offering live transcription for our deaf and hard of hearing community, and just in case we have any audio issues during the webinar. So a disclaimer, this webinar is being recorded and it will be broadcast on the PTAC website and YouTube channel. For those of you who are not familiar with the Maryland PTAC, it is our mission to help Maryland businesses fully compete in federal, state, and local government procurement processes. Our services are free and confidential. If you would like to speak with a counselor, just go to our website, mdptac.org, and complete the application. And if you have been counseled before and need further help, please email your counselor to request another meeting. Okay, over to you, Melissa. Good morning.
Good morning, Yasmin. Thank you for inviting me to speak. I very much appreciate the opportunity. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time out of their busy days. I'm hoping that this is informative, that it's not scary. There's a lot of disinformation out there about CMMC, and I'm hoping to cut through a lot of the confusion and give you information that is that we can tie back to, authorized sources, and to focus on what you can do and what you are already probably doing within your companies right now. So just to review at a high level, for those of you who have only heard of CMMC and may not know what its purpose is for, it's basically the Department of Defense's way of assuring that they have some supply chain integrity. And the supply chain covers an estimated 300,000 companies, large, smalls, in the defense industrial base. The focus is on federal contract information and controlled unclassified information. We'll go into a little bit more detail in some future slides. CMMC is something that is not necessarily new. A lot of these security domains that it covers have been discussed in multiple different frameworks, varying from NIST to FISMA to commercial frameworks like ISO 27001, HIPAA, HITECH, and PCI. These controls, if anyone is used to IT and cybersecurity, none of these will look new. There's a lot of confusion about levels with CMMC, and this slide is just to give you an idea of how they grow and build on each other. The level 1, it's only 17 controls spread across the control domains that we just saw, and it's basic cyber hygiene. Level 1 is what every single company who wants or has a DoD contract is going to have to attain. If you don't have those 17 controls completely addressed and nailed down, you're not going to get a DoD contract. So no matter if you are looking to be like a level 3, and we'll get to those requirements in a little bit, you still need to have everything level 1 nailed down. When an eventual third-party auditor, and we'll talk about that soon, when an eventual auditor comes in to look at your IT infrastructure, they're going to start at level 1. And if you don't have level 1 completely addressed, they're not going to go forward to any of the higher controls for 2 or 3. Most contractors, and this is something that is not really pushed out there, most contractors will only need to be level 1. The acquisition division of the DoD has been really consistent with their message that 75 to 80% of the defense industrial base, those 300,000 companies, will only need to be level 1 because they're just handling federal contract information. They're not handling controlled unclassified information. So level 1, for most companies, the most important, and it's what you need to move forward. Level 1, just 17 controls, basic cyber hygiene. A lot of companies are probably doing, hopefully most of them right now. It's what any business, commercial, government, every business should be doing these things in the 21st century. Anyone who is doing anything online, these are just really sort of obvious. You know, you need to have antivirus, you should have, you know, some kind of firewall, you know, for your internet connection, really basic things. Again, you have to be 100% compliant to be level 1 certified. Level 1 is focused on federal contract information. This is everything you need to manage and maintain a federal contract, no matter what you're doing, whether you're providing skilled people to, you know, work, you know, on site in government spaces and contractor spaces. You're providing custom software. You're providing custom hardware. These are, you know, everything that's involved with that, the contract mods, the labor categories, the statements of work, you know, billing and invoicing, it's that. So basically, if you're a federal contractor, if you have anything with the DoD, you will have FCI by definition. Level 3, and this is where a lot of disinformation is surrounding, is that no, you don't need, no one, just because you have a DoD contract doesn't mean that you have CUI that you need to be level 3. They're the minority. And again, just as it is for level 1, you need to be 100% compliant. That is 130 controls that you need to have completely addressed. You can't just have a system security plan or a plan of actions and milestones. We'll discuss those in a little bit. You can't just have, everything needs to be remediated. So if you're used to dealing with a plan of actions and milestones, that means every single task on your POAM needs to be addressed, remediated, fixed. CUI. Unfortunately, the definition of CUI is kind of squishy. Depending upon the different agencies and you know, parts of the DoD will have different definitions as to what controlled unclassified information is. I've been able to grab things from what I've been able to find from reputable sources online, but really honestly, it comes down to, depending upon the contract, the contracting officer will be defining what, if any, CUI is there. So while you can look at something and say, ITAR data is definitely considered to be CUI, personally identifiable information, and then you can read the slide and see that, you know, if there's information with, you know, technical reports, software, you know, definitions, those things could be considered CUI, but ultimately it comes down to a contract by contract basis as to the data that you're going to be viewing, you know, managing for the government, whatever. This is CUI in systems that you control. That's another key part of it. It's not in government systems, it's commercial systems that are in the contractor's control. Some of that may be considered CUI. This is supposed to be the slide where everybody takes a deep breath and remembers that not every contract requires CUI, and that the majority of contractors out there will only need to be level 1 because they're handling FCI. Flow down. Flow down is required in terms of a prime contractor must say their subs must be at least level 1. It is not to say that because a prime may have a contract that requires them to handle CUI. If the subcontractors are not required to handle it, then they're not required to be level 3. So just because a prime for a particular contract needs to be level 3, it does not mean that all of the subs working under that prime are required to be level 3 as well. And just to remember that costs of being compliant, whether you have to buy new software, new hardware, new services, or whatever to meet level 1 or level 3 compliance, those become line item chargeable cybersecurity costs that you can put into the contract. The government is expecting that there be charges to comply. So you're not going to have to take this on the chin. And finally, there's a lot of grants, and you're probably aware of these now, but the Maryland MEP has a grant program to help Maryland companies with their assessment preparation. So there's a grant, and you should look more information up about that. I can provide that as well. You don't need a company to help you prepare. You can do the work yourself. If you do decide to, whether you're doing it yourself or you go, and ask for help, these are the basic steps that you need to do. First is a gap assessment to see where you are, what you're doing now, and what you have to do. Creating a system security plan and a plan of actions and milestones out of that to say, in the case of level 1, you're just focusing on the systems that contain federal contract information. And the POAM basically says what you have to do to achieve those outstanding controls for level 1. For level 3, obviously there's 130 of them. There's going to be a lot more. Your SSP and POAM are going to be a lot larger. And then moving forward to figure out what you need to do, and whether that's changing the way you're doing some of your operations, whether you're documenting your policies, your procedures, whether you're buying like new software, new services, hardware, whatever, but this is what's happening. And finally, and this is the most important part, for level 3, the whole concept of a maturity model process is that you're actively operationalizing, you're actively doing these things, and you can prove it. So when an auditor comes in, they're going to look at everything that you say you're doing, and they're going to want proof that you are doing it. So that's really important. This isn't something that you can just checkbox and say, yeah, I'll show them my policies and procedures, and you might be able to show some system configuration or log files or whatever, but you actually have to show that you're doing what you're saying you're doing. If you're trying to look for an assessor, you can look in the CMMC Accreditation Board Marketplace and look for a company that they call we call ourselves Registered Provider Organizations, RPOs, where you can go and look and see who can help you. But things that I would advise looking at is if you're this should be a company that speaks your language. You should look for somebody that knows about the government marketplace, that understands, if you talk about a labor category or whatever, that they know what that means. Look for people who can help you get smarter, and be very wary of companies that say, well, I'll help you do an assessment, but by the way, our product or service can get you, CMMC certified. There isn't a single product out there that can be the big red easy button and just do it for you. It's going to take work, internal work on your own. You can't just buy something and forget about it. And this may be good news or bad news, depending upon your perspective, but CMMC looks like it's going to be picked up by other government agencies. DHS is definitely going for it, and there's some talk of other agencies that are moving forward to do this to secure their own supply chains and their own contracting bases. If you have multiple contracts, if it's not just DoD, yeah, there's going to be more agencies out there who are adopting this. Here's some basic information. This is reliable information about, you go right to the source, go right to the acquisition DoD site to find out about CMMC. Take a look at the CMMC accreditation body. They are while they're customers, the DoD, they are a separate independent body. And what happens there is they train RPO organizations. So for example, I had to undergo training to make sure that I could prove that I understood how CMMC works. But they also, more importantly, they are certifying and training the auditors who are going to come in and actually do like the no kidding audit to say you're level 1 or you're level 3. Information about Maryland tax credits and the Maryland MEP DCAP grant program. And that's basically it. If anybody has questions that they want to ask now, or my contact is there. If somebody wants to wait and contact me directly, please feel free.
Thank you, Melissa. Yes, we do have some questions. And I just want to apologize for some of the audio is slightly distorted, but hopefully the transcription will help on that end. Okay, first question is from Lynette, and her question is, how can I get a CMMC certification done? I am renting a co-working space with my own private office.
You can contact an auditor. If you're ready to be certified, you're ready for an auditor to come in, you can go to the CMMC marketplace and look for, they call them a C3 PAO. So it's basically a certified third-party assessor or auditor organization, and contact them. I will caution people though that unless you have a new DoD contract with a CMMC level requirement out there, and there's very few of them right now because 2021, the DoD is coming out. They're doing a slow roll, so it's not a lot of contracts are being rolled out with those requirements. Unless you are bidding on one of those contracts, those auditing organizations are probably going to tell you to wait because they're working with getting companies who are going after those contracts certified first. But that's what you would do.
Okay, thanks. Next question is from Dwayne, who asks, we are registered in SAM and we are a product company. Is CMMC Level 1 required?
So that's a very good question. The final rule, which came out in November of 2020, which laid out how CMMC is going to work, If you provide only, commercial off-the-shelf COTS products, and there is in no way any sort of customization that you're doing for hardware and software, if you're selling the government exactly the same things as you would sell to, a commercial company with nothing special added, then no, you are not, you are exempted from CMMC.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Tyrone. What security does my company need to have in place to process invoices or to communicate with contract officers on DoD contracts?
That sounds like level 1. So if you're just doing the the contract management around FDI, then you'd only need to be a level 1.
Okay. Next question. Is there an online checklist that a company can use to assess what level that they are at currently?
You can go directly, if you go to the acquisition DoD site, you can download the controls and look through those and to see where you are. So all of that information, it's in Word and PDF form, but you can go in and actually grab the specification yourself and go through and do your own assessment against that.
Okay, somebody else says, how can my company become certified to do CMMC audits?
You need to contact the CMMC Accreditation Board. They have on their website, they have a process to apply to become a accredited auditor. And there's training that your auditors would have to go through. And they'd have to specify whether or not they want to do audits for level 1, level 3, or the levels 4 and 5, which we don't really talk about because there's so few companies that will be required to be that. So there's definitely a process that you have to go through to become a C3 PAO, Certified Third Party Audit Organization.
Okay, great. Let's see if there's any more questions. You mentioned product companies are exempt from CMMC, but is that true if you sell the product with related services?
I think that is a question to be asking for the actual contract you're working with, but with if the services, that's something that's again a little squishy. I'm not sure if they would be considering those services to contain controlled unclassified information, or so that's where things can get a little funny, because there could be customization services that you're doing, and that would bring it under CMMC.
Okay, so getting some really good questions here. Next one is, I've heard assessments need to be recorded in a database called SVRS. Can you speak more to that? And also, how long are the level certifications good for?
I can answer the last. I'm not too sure about the nature of the first. I have heard that the scores, yes, will be stored in a central database. I do not know, and I personally have a strong opinion about whether or not those will contain any SSPs or POAMs or reports about the companies in question. We all know that the government has a very poor track record of maintaining the security of, well, for example, we all remember the OPM breach of a few years ago, where anybody who ever had a security clearance had their personal information stolen, to include, biometric data like fingerprints. So I'm still a little cranky about that to this day, since my information was one of the ones stolen. I think there would be it would be a hard sell to have anything but the fact that whether you're level 1 or 3 or 4 or 5 there. I think that if they try to suck up information and basically about how it's basically the security posture of 300,000 companies, I think that would be a problem and a definite target of the hacker community, because you can see what people have and what they don't. The other part of the question, actually, what was the other part of the question? I got myself into a rant. I apologize.
Oh, right. Okay, no worries. Let's see. We were talking about the assessments being recorded in SVRS. How long are the level certifications good for? 3 years. Okay, great. Next question. I'm a woman-owned small business working with DLA and the Army, Navy, and Air Force. We also have IDPOs in place with DLA. What level do we need? That depends on the contract. You're going to at least need to be level 1, but whether or not the contracts that you have or ones that you intend to bid on in the future has CUI, that's going to depend upon the contract. Okay, thank you. And let's see. Yep, says thank you for that. And looks like only one more question. If a CO marks an email as CUI, even if it is just asking for a status of an order, do we need to treat the email as CUI? Yes, but I really hope someone wouldn't be that stupid. I mean, that is really, again, I have no, it could definitely happen. But yes, if they portion mark it as CUI, then it becomes CUI. But I'm really hoping that people do not do that, because that would be, you know, again, now you have your email system now has CUI, technical CUI data in it, and you need to treat it differently. So really hope that doesn't happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, looks like one more question and then we can wrap up. If I'm only working with primes or a second tier, what level security do I need? Again, it all depends on the contract. So if if you are doing DoD work, you need to be level 1. Whether or not you have access to whatever the government defines as CUI, whether you have access to it, whether it's going to be contained in your systems, that will determine whether or not you need to be level 3. When we talked about flow down earlier, just because a prime has CUI and that they're going to be certified at level 3 doesn't mean that they're going to be passing that information on to you. And the accreditation board has been putting out in their training explicitly about this. It's like, do not indiscriminately flow down the requirements. Do not indiscriminately pass out CUI. If your subs don't need to see it, keep it within the prime systems, or show it to the subs using, you know, a virtual desktop interface or whatever. It's like the data never leaves the prime's systems, but a sub can go in and take a look at it. Okay, I know I keep saying last one because one or two questions keep coming through. Okay, this one is, do cloud email services like Microsoft 365 qualify for CMMC certification? Well, anything that you're using, that you're going to be, you know, storing federal contract information or CUI in, everything is subject. So no matter what, if it's an in-house system or a cloud software as a service, yes, they're under scope. If you're asking whether or not commercial 365
will meet the requirements for CMMC, it will for level 1. It will not for level 3. If you're going to be storing CUI data in 365 and SharePoint and OneDrive and using email to send it back and forth, you need to use a very expensive and a far more limited in functionality licensed service called Office 365 GCC High. And I personally advise Kaizen's own customers that we help to prepare for CMMC. I advise them against that unless, you know, there's a real strong business requirement to just throw everything in there. It is expensive and has less functionality. There are other ways to store your CUI without going all over to GCC High.
Thank you. Do you have information on DHS developing or creating their own version of CMMC requirements for contractors? There has been news that they've been looking at creating their own.
No, I have no information on that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Melissa. That seems to be all the questions we have. Thank you for a great informative PowerPoint, which I will be emailing to everybody shortly. And also this has been recorded and it will be available for replay probably by this afternoon on our YouTube channel and on our website. Link in the email to you. Again, if you have any further questions for Melissa and her team, the information for contact is in her PowerPoint. I encourage you to reach out. And of course, for any general government contracting help, the PTAC is here to help you. So please sign up. Or if you've already signed up and need further help, please contact your counsellor. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, everybody. And we hope to see you at another webinar soon. Bye-bye.